Imagine a world where the cure for chronic pain wasn't, a pill or some big procedure, but maybe just a whisper, a belief, or even a simple touch.
Hmm.
What if the real secrets to healing were actually much simpler and, well, a lot older than we usually think?
Right. Back to basics almost.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this really extraordinary text from 1917. It's called Relief of Pain by Mental Suggestion by Loring W. Batten.
A fascinating read, truly.
It really is. And it's not just some dusty old book. It's packed with these surprisingly potent insights into the connection between our minds and our bodies.
That mind-body connection we talk so much about now, he was deep into it over a century ago.
Totally. So our mission today is to unpack Batten's main ideas, look at his examples, some are pretty wild, and see what this, century-old wisdom tells us about healing, faith, and maybe this hidden power we all have inside, hopefully helping you get really well informed on this powerful topic.
Sounds great. Where do we start? With Batten himself.
Yeah, let's start there. Loring W. Batten. He
Uh,
was quite the character. 9 years before this book came out, he was the rector, right? In an old New York parish.
yeah, down New York, yeah.
And he felt his church needed something more vital. He got involved with the Emmanuel movement.
Ah, yes, that early 20th century thing, mixing spirituality and psychology for healing. Very influential.
Exactly. And then he started his own healing mission. He began holding these Sunday night services just for the sick.
And the really interesting part is he got doctors involved, leading physicians, apparently.
Yeah, willing cooperation. They worked together for 3 years on a big scale. And over the full 9 years leading up to the book, Batten himself saw, and these are his words, many hundreds of people suffering from the various nervous afflictions.
Wow, hundreds. So he had real-world experience.
Absolutely. He's very clear this book isn't about novel theories. It's about principles that have been well tested and proved to be good. It comes straight from that experience.
You really feel that practical grounding.
You do. And it kind of hits you when he says some of his best friends were people he first met when they came to him desperate for relief from pain.
That personal connection definitely comes through.
So he kicks off his whole exploration by looking at Jesus's healing ministry. How does he frame that?
Well, he paints Jesus as this incredibly empathetic figure, someone whose ear was quick to detect the genuine cry of distress. And driven by love, Jesus was dedicated, Batten says, above all else to the task of relieving the world's pain. And that wasn't just physical pain.
Right. He stresses the spiritual and mental side, too.
Exactly. And when Batten looks at the actual diseases Jesus healed, he notes many were chronic, seemingly incurable things people afflicted from early childhood.
Like lifelong conditions.
Precisely. He also touches on that ancient idea of demoniacal possession.
Yeah. For things like seizures or mutism.
Or even Batten mentions King Saul's homicidal mania being attributed to an evil spirit. Now, what's fascinating is Batten's take on this. He argues this old Bible theory, blaming demons, was actually, in a way, more charitable than how people later started blaming sufferers for having weak wills.
That's counterintuitive. How so?
Well, he connects it to modern psychology recognizing subconscious compulsion. The old idea was you cast out the external devil. You don't blame the person's character.
So it externalizes the problem rather than making it a personal failing.
Exactly. He saw it as kinder, more compassionate than just saying, pull yourself together.
Interesting perspective. Okay, so digging into Jesus's methods, what did Batten highlight there?
He really focuses on, well, two main things. There's the divine power aspect, obviously, the finger of God or spirit of a God.
Right.
But also the very practical stuff. Physical touch, laying his hands upon him, touching the specific problem area. And the spoken word, Ephatha, be opened, things like that.
Direct actions.
Very direct. But here's where it gets really interesting for Batten.
Yeah.
He analyzes that story of the woman with the hemorrhage.
Okay, I remember. Jesus felt power leave him.
Right? Power had gone forth from me. But then he says to her, thy faith has made thee whole.
So the emphasis shifts.
Exactly. Batten suggests it wasn't like a literal energy transfer, but Jesus sensing her intense appeal, her faith, and that was the active ingredient.
So faith is the catalyst.
That's how Batten sees it.
Yeah.
And he also points out Jesus sometimes used decidedly material agency. Clay ointment, spittle.
Yeah, the messy stuff.
The messy stuff. Batten actually says this would forever confound those in his time, like Christian scientists, who condemned using any drugs or material aids. He's basically saying, look, even Jesus used physical means sometimes.
Bit of a jab there. So Okay, faith is crucial. How central was it? Did the person always need to have faith themselves?
Batten argues it was almost the central element. He calls Jesus a faith healer, attributing the power to this purely moral force of faith.
Purely moral,
And
okay.
yes, typically faith was needed in the sufferer. Jesus would say, "Thy faith hath wrought thy cure," or he'd try to spark it, asking, "Believe ye that I am able to do this?"
Yeah.
And the flip side, Jesus did not many mighty works in his own home district because of the unbelief of the people. Their lack of faith was a barrier.
Wow. So belief was almost a prerequisite.
Often, yes,
Huh.
but not always their belief. Batten points out faith could also be in a third party,
Like who?
like the centurion asking for his servant, or those guys who literally broke through a roof for their paralyzed friend. Their faith activated the healing.
Okay, got it.
And remember when the disciples couldn't heal the demoniac boy? Jesus didn't blame lack of prayer or fasting. He blamed their little faith.
Directly tied to their belief.
Directly. But Batten stresses this faith wasn't complicated theology. It was simple. Belief in Jesus' power to heal, or just belief that the illness could be cured and the method used would work. Simple trust, really.
A very practical kind of faith. So Batten then argues Jesus didn't intend this healing gift just for himself, right? He passed it on.
Absolutely. He empowered the 12 apostles and later the 70 disciples to go out and heal. He even okayed others doing it, telling his disciples not to stop someone casting out demons just because they weren't part of the inner circle.
Hmm. Interesting inclusivity there.
And Batten finds it striking that these disciples, who he calls a pretty crude lot of men, uneducated and uncultured,
Mm-hmm.
were largely successful.
Despite not having, say, medical degrees.
Exactly. He contrasts their broad success with the increasing specialization in modern medicine. He's not anti-doctor, but suggests physicians could help more people with certain conditions if they sometimes put aside their formal training and embrace these other, maybe less conventional methods.
Sort of broadening their toolkit?
Precisely. And building on that, Batten felt strongly the church in his day was equally bound to heal the sick. He felt it had often been blind leading the blind, but that our eyes are being opened.
A call to action for the church?
Definitely. Not that every single clergyman should become a therapist, but enough should engage, so help is available. Which brings us to his really crucial classification of disease.
Okay, how did he categorize things?
He makes this key distinction: organic versus functional. Organic means actual tissue damage, physical degeneration.
Right, like a broken bone or an infection.
Yes. Functional means the symptoms are real, sometimes identical to organic disease, but there's no underlying tissue damage. The cause is the vital difference. Is it physical, or is it, as he puts it, psychical mental?
So same symptoms, different root cause.
Exactly. He gives examples like your eyes watering from cold wind versus crying because you heard sad news. Same tears, different trigger.
Makes sense.
Or hay fever. Sometimes it's pollen, but sometimes, he argues, it can be triggered just by suggestion. He makes this pretty bold claim for 1917. Scarcely any disease, the symptoms of which may not be duplicated in a case that is purely functional and psychic in its origin.
Wow. So the mind can mimic almost anything. That's huge, especially when he talks about the suffering involved in these nervous disorders.
Oh, he describes that vividly. The pain is almost unbearable, and it never lets up. It's a mental agony. He contrasts sharply with most physical pain, which usually has limits.
He tells that story about the doctor, right?
Yeah, the physician with neurasthenia, that kind of chronic fatigue and nerve exhaustion diagnosis common. And he breaks his arm, and it actually felt good because the physical pain distracted him from the utter misery in his mind.
That's incredibly telling.
It is. Organic diseases often run a course: you get better or you don't. But these psychopathic disorders, Batten says, they never kill, but lead to this miserable existence month after month and year after year.
A kind of living hell.
And the isolation. People with physical illnesses get love and sympathy, but nervous sufferers, often treated like outcasts, blamed for weakness of will.
Mm-hmm.
While friends then flowers to one, Batten says, for the other, they throw stones.
That's harsh. A really tough position to be in. So Batten saw problems on both sides of the healing divide in his day.
He did. He calls them contrasted mistakes. On one side, you had Christian Science, growing fast, often helping where doctors couldn't. But, he argued, they wrongly claimed all disease was just an error of mortal mind, denying physical reality and using only mental treatment. Too extreme.
Okay, and the other side?
The medical profession.
Yeah.
Hardworking, scientific, yes, but tending towards materialism, trying to treat everything with physical means, sometimes even blaming the patient if treatment didn't work.
So too focused on the physical, perhaps.
That was his critique, his solution. Seek both Jehovah and the physician. Use the right tool for the job, basically. Apply the most suitable remedies for the specific type of ailment.
The balanced approach.
Exactly. And then he really dives into how the mind affects the body. Common stuff we know, like crying physically from emotion, or how your digestion just tanks if you're upset or angry. Food feels like a lump of lead.
Yeah, we've all felt that.
Or fear. It can give you superhuman power or cause total paralysis. He insists emotions affect pretty much every organ.
Okay, that seems intuitive. But did he have more concrete examples?
Oh yeah. He brings up hypnosis experiments from his time, suggesting someone under hypnosis has a fever could actually raise their temperature, suggesting a chill could lower it. Real physiological changes from suggestion.
Wow, like the body obeying the mind's command.
Precisely. He mentions phantom or hysterical tumor swellings that weren't physically real, proven when they vanished under anesthesia.
So the mind literally created a physical symptom.
It appeared that way. He even wonders if the mind can cause organic changes, citing things like hair going prematurely gray from stress, or even St. Francis's stigmata, maybe intense mental focus causing physical marks.
That's pushing the boundary.
It is. But crucially, he pulls back slightly. He warns that a bad mental state can absolutely be caused by physical problems. You shouldn't offer moral consolation where material aid is required.
Right, like his Elijah example, the prophet needed food and rest, not just a pep talk.
Exactly. Discernment is key. Don't just assume it's all in the mind.
Okay, so this mind-body link is powerful but complex. Now, he really goes after some common beliefs with insomnia and hay fever, doesn't he?
He really does. Insomnia people blame coffee, being overtired, noise. Batten says, hold on, soldiers sleep through bombardments. Jesus slept through a storm. It can't just be those things.
So what's his explanation? It's pretty surprising.
His answer is almost shocking in its simplicity. Insomnia is basically an idea.
An idea.
Yeah. Habit, expectation, fear, and underlying it all, lack of faith.
Yeah.
You have one bad night, you start expecting another bad night, you fear it, and boom, the idea itself keeps you awake.
The self-fulfilling prophecy of sleeplessness.
Pretty much. And he applies similar logic to hay fever. He calls it a disease of psychic induction.
Psychic induction, how does that work?
He points to things like its specific onset date, sometimes the exact same day each year, regardless of pollen levels, how different things trigger different people, how sufferers are suddenly fine in certain immune places.
Yeah. Like going on vacation and it disappears.
Right. And he even cites cases where it was induced by hypnosis. He tells this story about a bishop whose hay fever only started after his doctor predicted he'd get it.
So the doctor's suggestion planted the seed.
That's the implication. And Batten says this applies to a whole bunch of other functional disorders, nervous indigestion, maybe even some colds, headaches, constipation. He thinks they often stem from an idea in the subconscious mind.
An idea lodged deep down. How does it get there?
Two main ways, he thinks. Either you have a real physical illness initially, but the fear or memory of it gets stuck, fixed by mental association long after the physical cause is gone. Or it happens through suggestion, maybe absorbing someone else's symptoms out of sympathy, like his patient who developed a psychic cancer in the breast.
Wow. So the common thread.
The common thread is the sufferer has lost faith in the normal working of their body or mind. They expect it to fail.
That's a really different way of looking at chronic functional issues. So if these problems stem from ideas or loss of faith, what's the actual cure, according to Batten?
He boils it all down.
Yeah.
All these different cures people claim for these functional issues, different therapies, different systems, he says they all ultimately rely on just one single therapeutic agent.
Which is
Suggestion.
plain old suggestion.
That's his core argument.
Yeah.
He gives great examples.
Yeah.
The hypnotized alcoholic suddenly finding sherry disgusting because it was suggested it would make him sick.
Right.
Or someone's headache vanishing instantly just because they were told firmly it would stop in exactly 12 minutes.
The power of expectation again.
Absolutely. Or think about a golf game. Encouragement boosts performance. Fear of a water hazard. Pernicious suggestion, he calls it, makes you shank the ball right into it.
Ha! Been there.
We all have. And he adds that even physical things, like a doctor's prescription or using consecrated oil in a religious context, often work because they reinforce the suggestion. They act as tangible vehicles for the belief that healing will occur.
So the pill itself might be inert, but the belief in it works.
That's often the mechanism in functional disorders, yes. which leads him to a pretty bold claim about Jesus' healings.
Okay, yeah. He doesn't just say suggestion is powerful. He connects it directly back to Jesus and the disciples, right? That sounds potentially controversial.
It is, definitely for his time. He suggests their cures might not always need a miracle explanation. They could be understood as the application of a universal psychological law,
Meaning suggestion.
meaning suggestion. He even says Jesus' methods show him to be a past master in the art of suggestion.
Wow. How does he illustrate that?
He breaks down Peter healing the lame man at the temple, step by step. Peter fastening his eyes on the man, grabbing his attention,
Okay.
giving commands, look on us, getting rid of reliance on money. Silver and gold have I none, assuring help. But what I have, that give I thee. Then the direct command, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, walk, all reinforced by grabbing his hand and, crucially, Peter's absolute unwavering faith.
It's like a masterclass in focused intention and command.
That's exactly how Batten analyzes it. He sees the same principles with the man born blind Jesus' words, the clay and spittle, the instruction to go wash in Siloam, all serving as an effective vehicle for suggestion, building expectancy and faith.
So he's not diminishing Jesus.
No, he's careful about that. He says it shows how the laws ordained by a wise creator are at the service of all men in all ages. Suggestion is a God-given tool available to everyone.
Okay, so if suggestion is this universal tool, how did Batten see it operating in other healing systems, even ones that might deny using it?
Well, he points directly at Christian Science again. They might scorn suggestion, but their strong assertions, there is no disease. And their use of testimonials are actually, Batten says, incredibly effective forms of suggestion, even if they call it something else.
Using the tool without naming it.
Exactly. Then he tackles absent treatment, healing from a distance.
Telepathy.
Batten says probably not. He thinks it works through suggestion too, but only if the subject shall be aware of the efforts on his behalf.
Ah, so knowing someone is trying to help you is key.
Right, he gives an example. Tell an insomniac a healer miles away is focusing on them right now, and the expectation might be enough to bring sleep. The belief does the work.
Makes sense. Did he differentiate suggestion from hypnotism?
Yes, clearly. Hypnotism is one specific tool, a way to induce a state where suggestion might be more readily accepted. But suggestion happens all the time without formal hypnosis.
Okay.
He acknowledges the drawbacks of hypnotism, the public fear around it, the fact many people can't be deeply hypnotized or won't follow suggestions against their core values.
So what was his preferred method?
He liked the conversational method, building rapport, boosting morale, offering positive suggestions while the person was relaxed but fully conscious.
More collaborative, maybe?
Seems so. And what's really cool is how he broadens the application of suggestion beyond just curing illness.
How so?
He says suggestion can tap into our subconscious mental and physical assets. It doesn't create talent we don't have, but it can unlock potential, stimulate energy, improve the quality of anything we undertake to do.
Like a mental performance enhancer.
Exactly. He gives examples. The host is suddenly being charming and witty, the athlete feeling supple and strong, the reader grasping meaning more quickly, the speaker finding the right words, even the soldier feeling braver. Suggestion helps us access strength we didn't know we had.
That's a really positive framing.
It is, and he ties it back to morality and religion. He believes these forces, used wisely through suggestion, are paramount. Healing comes when faith is recovered, when healthy ideas replace morbid ones. Religion becomes a tremendous adjunct to mental and physical well-being.
A powerful synergy, but suggestion wasn't the only tool he discussed, right? There was psychoanalysis too.
Right. For the really stubborn cases, the deep-seated issues, he saw psychoanalysis as one more arrow in the healer's quiver. It's about analyzing the mind to find the origin of these powerful, often hidden mental forces.
Getting to the root cause, how did he illustrate this?
He uses the fear of thunderstorms brontophobia as a great example. Rationally, the fear seems excessive, right? You're far more likely to get hit by a car in NYC than by lightning.
True. So why the intense terror for some?
Batten argues, and this is key, the apparent object of fear is not the real one.
Meaning the lightning isn't the real fear.
Often, no. In severe phobias, the conscious fear, lightning, is a substitution for a repressed, hidden fear from childhood. Maybe a traumatic experience involving intense heat or a sudden loud noise.
The subconscious makes a connection.
Exactly. And the amazing thing, Batten says, is when you uncover that original trauma through analysis, there's often this immediate sense of relief. He connects it to Jesus' words, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free."
Finding the source breaks its power.
That's the idea. He shares case studies. An army officer's daughter terrified by cannon fire as a child whose fear later latched onto thunder. Or a little girl scared by the heat from a train accident, which later manifested as a thunderstorm phobia. The original fear gets disguised.
Fascinating. And does this apply to other fears too?
He thinks so. That incredible adult fear of the dark, probably linked to some forgotten childhood trauma. He mentions a patient haunted by hallucinations of black goblins traced back to a nurse's terrifying threats in her childhood.
Wow. It really highlights the vulnerability of a child's mind.
Absolutely. Batten strongly warns about protecting children from impressions that may do inconceivable harm. He states pretty bluntly that all phobias, obsessions, and compulsive ideas are primarily due to a mental shock received in the plastic stage of childhood.
How powerful warning for parents and caregivers.
Definitely. He also touches on sleepwalking and dreams using this lens. Psychoanalysis, he says, shows there's often a hidden purpose behind somnambulism, like acting out a dream of falling by seeking comfort.
So dreams aren't just random noise.
Not according to Batten, or the psychoanalysts he studied. He sees dreams as potential revelations of the profoundest secrets of the mind. He acknowledges Freud's idea of dreams as wish fulfillment. But he cautions against Freud's overarching theory that everything boils down to sex. Batten suggests using Freud's methods of analysis, but being wary of his conclusions.
Use the technique, question the interpretation.
Right. Batten himself believed fear as well as desire may be the motive of the dream. Nightmares for him were evidence of a past, terrifying experience still active in the subconscious.
A living memory, almost.
Yeah. And he connects all this back to healthy development, referencing St. Paul about putting away childish things. To have stable nerves and mental soundness, you need to process and move beyond these early shocks.
And if you can't do it alone?
Then seek help.
Mm.
He recognizes the shame people felt, but insists the mind needs skillful care, just like the body. It's often a long and hard struggle needing real effort from the patient, but guided by a capable officer, the healer.
So after exploring all these methods, faith, suggestions, psychoanalysis, what did Batten see as the essential qualities needed in the healer themselves?
He lays out 4 key qualities, and he's quite humble, suggesting they're within the reach of all clergymen and many other people, not some mystical gift.
Okay, what are they?
First, adequate knowledge. Understanding psychology, both normal and abnormal, and just plain human nature. You need to know what you're dealing with.
Makes sense.
Second, increased sympathy. And not just feeling sorry for someone. He means a deep empathy, an understanding of our patient's fears or feelings or pain that we can fairly feel them. Really connecting.
True understanding. Third,
confidence. The healer needs genuine confidence in the healing process, in the effectiveness of the methods being used. Belief is contagious.
right, you need to project that belief.
Yeah. Fourth,
Finally, a personality that inspires confidence. The patient needs to trust the healer, but ultimately, Batten says, this confidence should point towards a good God, loving all his creatures and ever working for their welfare, grounding the trust in something bigger.
knowledge, sympathy, confidence in the method, and inspiring confidence in a higher power. That's quite a list. It is. And he circles back to collaboration. In organic cases, call in the doctor as the first step. Get a proper diagnosis.
Always pragmatic.
Always. But then he sees clergy or similar figures as being powerful and welcome aid. By bringing peace, serenity of mind, they can actually help the medical treatment work better.
Another aspect of the mind-body link.
Exactly. And he makes a final strong plea for the therapeutic value of prayer. In all sickness, physical or mental, he wants a revival of prayer as a direct healing tool.
But with a caveat, right, about theology.
Yes, a crucial one. Free prayer from the doubtful theology that sickness is God's punishment for sin. That, he felt, was harmful.
So how should prayer view sickness?
As the working of evil forces, not necessarily literal demons, but forces contrary to well-being which we actively work and pray against, seeking recovery.
Yeah.
Every sick person is a chance for the manifestation of the works of God, meaning healing and restoration.
A much more hopeful and proactive view of prayer. So wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway from Batten's century-old insights?
I think the timeless reminder is just how powerful our minds are. They aren't just passively experiencing illness. They are an active force, deeply involved in both the cause and the cure, capable of influencing our physical reality in ways we're maybe still only beginning to grasp.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. It raises that question. How much better could our collective health be, physically and mentally. If we really embraced all these healing forces, if we integrated the mental, the spiritual with the physical in how we treat ourselves and support each other.
Imagine if we really learned to harness that power of belief, of suggestion that Batten was talking about,
The potential seems enormous.
which leads to that final thought, that challenge Batten leaves us with. If maybe our own little faith, our own limiting beliefs are what often hold us back from healing, well, what incredible cures, what level of well-being might actually be possible if we dare to truly believe in the full, positive power of our own minds?
A provocative question indeed. Plenty to think about there.